Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors can talk about how they write their books, how they market their books, and how they publish their books. You can find us right here at ltveh.org. Just click on videos and you'll find our show. We're also on Cablevision Channel 20, not in East Hampton, but in the rest of Long Island on Thursdays at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're on Facebook. Just look for The Writer's Dream. If you want to be on the show, you can message me through Facebook. And if you're interested in becoming a writer or learning about writers and books, and especially local Long Island books, go on the Facebook channel because there are about 200 different authors. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce today's guest, Rosemary McKinley. And Rosemary is definitely the perfect example of a talented retired teacher. So, Rosemary, I see such a list of accomplishments here that I'm embarrassed that I have a shorter list. How long did you teach?
Around 30 years.
I guessed that.
Yeah. Huh? She's laughing.
I'm laughing because that's usually the magic number, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so I see your contributions are to so many different magazines. Fate magazine, The Good Old Days, Newsday, Wormwood Press, Clarity, Lucidity, Long Island Canvas, The Ultimate Teacher, Writing After Retirement, and Whispering Angels Books. Your three books, which we talked about in a previous interview, are 101 Glimpses of the North Fork and Islands, which is what we're going to talk about today, The Wampum Exchange, and Captain Henry Green. You can talk about anything you want, really, Rosemary. And Rosemary has presented her books and writing workshops at the Long Island Aquarium, various libraries, the Shinnecock Museum, the Children's Museum of the East End, and the Historical Society. So, first question, how did you get started in writing?
Well, it's very interesting because I never wanted to be a writer.
Me either.
But I went to Columbia's Teachers College for 2 summers for 11 days each to become a better writing teacher. And you had to go through writing workshop, which I found very illuminating because it made you think about just anything that was important to you. And you would write it down for a couple of weeks and then come up with a particular project. So I did that for 2 years because I wanted to be a better writing teacher, never thinking that that would help me. And at a certain point, that's the method I used to become a writer.
Well, we didn't mention this to begin with. You taught writing and you also taught history, correct?
Yes. Yes.
What did you teach in history? It's under the umbrella of social studies, but what actually did you teach?
Well, because I was an itinerant teacher, that's what they called us, for 14 years in a drug rehab, I had to teach every social studies. So I taught American history, African Asian history, European history, economics, and political science.
It's almost like being a special ed teacher.
Yes. Yes.
They have to teach every history as well. So what can I say? So is magazine writing a good way to get into a career?
I think it is. But when I started writing, I really did not know anything about how to get published. So I took some writing classes, and I just started sending my work. And I would send it to any website that called for work for writing. And maybe once or twice a year, I'd have something published. So I just kept at it because I really did want to become a published writer.
So that's the advice that they give you is that at first they say write what you know.
Yes.
And second, they say that if you have a profession like teaching, then go to your teaching publications and try to get published there. Um, I never did that, but that's me. Um, but I think it's a good. Often think of it though. Actually I did. I shouldn't say that. I I published in a magazine called Guppies, and
Hmm.
Guppies was the magazine for. Let me see if I can remember it for Sisters in Crime.
Ah,
Yeah, it was a sort of like a sideline of Sisters in Crime, and I used to publish my forensic science articles. So I did, and then also in 50 Plus magazine. So I guess I did. My goodness, thank you for reminding me
hmm.
of that.
Oh, by the way, I was highlighted in 50 Plus magazine and I won a poetry um, contest.
All right.
But it's not in existence anymore, I don't think.
No.
No.
Um, COVID got rid.
Yes,
It
decimated it.
died in COVID because I was doing. I only not only did one of my articles, but I also submitted a lot of members from Long Island Authors Group. And then COVID came along. A lot of things went by the wayside in COVID,
Yes,
unfortunately.
yes.
So, how do you choose your topics for your articles and your books? What's like your favorite topic? What was the best article you ever read? Wrote?
Actually, I wrote this. This may sound funny, but I my mother was very, very sick in 2001, and that's when I decided to become a writer. It was I wanted to do something besides teach. And I wrote a very short article about that whole feeling, how I was there for my mother near the end and how it transformed the way I thought about everything, about life, about my kids, and how I wanted to become a writer. And that that essay won me another I think it was $100. But that was wonderful, but it was the fact that somebody took my writing seriously. That was early in my career.
Yes, that's very important.
Yes.
So that was, and who published that?
Oh, you know what? Oh, it was the Visiting Nurse Association
Oh,
of
that's
Long Island.
wow.
That's right.
It's funny because I interview a lot of authors, and in having the conversation, we begin to realize how your profession and your personality and the place you live in really opens up a lot of venues for you to publish
Hmm.
things, and if you're not publishing them, to at least highlight them. For instance, let's get to your book about 101 glimpses of the North Fork and its islands. Yes, very good. Excellent. So glad you did that. You know, people, when I travel, people ask me, where are you from? And I'll say Long Island. And I say, oh, Long Island. And they make fun of it. And I think to myself, you've either never been there, and to see how beautiful it is, how interesting it is, and how historic it is. Long
Yes.
Island is a very historical place. So tell us about how you got this book together, because this is a lot of photographs, correct?
Okay. Well, this is another this story to me, I still find it hard to believe. I'm very happy that it happened, but I I have been writing lots of short stories and they're historical. I even interviewed my mother-in-law this story was about a woman who was born in 1915, lived in 1915 in New York City, where my mother-in-law was from. And she died at 100 to give you an idea of how she would know a lot about living in New York City. So
Hmm.
that story, I sent that story to History Press, and I got the nicest rejection I ever got.
Uh,
The editor said they did not publish short stories at all, but she enjoyed my story and good luck in the future. And then the next day she emailed me and she said, "Would you like to write a book for us?" Well,
Wow.
yes. So for someone who didn't, had no idea that this was going to happen, and I was so thrilled, and I was jumping up and down in my room when I heard this, but I did not know how to set up 100 pictures. I did not know how to do any of this, but I thought if I say no, I'll never get this opportunity again.
Exactly. And I'm sure they gave you a lot of help.
Actually,
Oh.
I went. I was kind of I went into this blind because it's a lot of technical stuff, taking a
Right.
hundred pictures, but I didn't know. I thought I had to pay for all this. The libraries are in New York are wonderful, and they provided the pictures, and I found that out after I did some of the work, which was okay, because I learned a lot more by going to the historical societies to get more background on the pictures.
Hmm.
So when I had that all ready, the 100 pictures and the writing, which was not a problem. The writing wasn't the problem. It was the technology.
Yes.
I went to my son, and he just couldn't help me at that point. He doesn't live on Long Island. And
Hmm.
one of the IT person at the local library, I went to him in tears, and he took care of that for me. He showed me how to do it, and he did most of it because I didn't really know how to do that. And the writing was not the problem. And
Hmm.
I had a deadline, of course, 3 months, and I was able to finish it all. And I was just so thrilled that I had an and not just a publisher, but an editor to help me.
Right. Yeah, I know someone else who did a similar book for the same publisher, and she went through the same process, but they did finally give her a lot of help as far as, the setup of the book. So, did you get most of your pictures? You said you went to New York. Now, this is about Long Island. Was it the main
Oh,
library?
no, I went to different libraries out on the East End where I live
Okay.
because it was about that. So, but I did the local library in Southold helped me the most. But I did go to a lot of historical societies because I needed 100 pictures.
Hmm. Right. Right.
So, but I was happy to do that because I was thrilled that I was going to be published. So,
It probably was a lot of fun because I'm doing a project now. I've started a project, let's put it that way, just on my own. I grew up in Queens, but my family business was we grew flowers for the cemeteries because, as you all know, everybody is buried in Queens. So we lived across the street from a cemetery, and uh, and so what I like to do, besides talking about my memories, because it was a farm, it was just like if you grew wheat or whatever. It was seasonal and had all the same problems like weather and whatnot. But I also, because it's in Queens, want to put pictures of these places because the cemetery is historic. And one of the restaurants that was close by, Niederstein's, almost everybody knows about that. It's gone now, but I am going to end up doing the same thing you're doing. But I don't have a publisher. So, but I just want to do it for my own purposes and for the family. So, okay. So once you got the book together, what happened?
I had to follow their instructions, of course, on how to send it. I think I sent it on a disc. The pictures were on
Yeah.
a disc,
Yeah.
and the other was in just not an email. It was in a folder. I had to send it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I did the editing. Of course, they re-edited it, but I did 90% of it. But they were terrific because they probably would have helped me but I just wanted to get the pictures done by myself because I thought
Hmm.
maybe I could learn something.
Yeah.
But it turned out I needed help with that, but not with the writing. So it all
So,
worked out.
what was the most surprising or interesting picture that you came across?
Well, that's a good, not just a good question, but I learned so much about the East End, and most of the pictures were from 100 years ago, not all, of course. And the other interesting part about this, like I said, I did learn about how people lived, and it was such an agrarian community generally.
Sure.
And but the other thing was that wait, I'm trying to think now. Oh, so I had to place, I had to figure out how I was going to set it up. That I had to do by myself, the book. So I separated all the departments and the topics, and then I learned that I wanted to place the wineries in the book, which are not that old, as you know, from the
Right.
70s.
Right.
And I had to convince the editor, it was not a problem because I explained how important it is out here. So that was added, and of course that's only from the 70s, so it's not 100 years ago. But I
Right.
learned so much about how people lived back then. I think that was the takeaway for me, and it shows in the book.
Yeah, and so many of the farms that are owned out there, and so many of the businesses, the names go back and back and back.
Yes.
I don't know if there is much of the Halsey family on the North Shore. I know they're on the South Shore, and that is the first Halsey person who came from England in the 1600s, and their most famous uh, person in the family ended up as Admiral Bull Halsey in World War II. And he was, I believe, in charge of the whole Pacific War for a while there.
Yes.
So there's just so much interesting stuff on Long Island. I really have to say that. Um, so, do you have any funny stories? I always want to hear funny stories.
Let's see. What I think is funny is that the editor said she loved my story, but they don't publish it. That I thought was pretty funny until she said, we can't help you. And then the next day, would you write a book for me? I mean, I just was thrilled. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I can tell you a couple funny stories. So I'm a history buff. And
Mhm.
when I started doing the research on the homes, a lot of people have a lot to say and the information is not true. Let me put it that way. And a lot of, especially out here, the first 13 families that's settled in Southold, the first group, a lot of the stories were handed down. It's like anything that's handed down over hundreds of years, couple hundred years, the story changes.
A little bit,
Yeah.
right?
So to give you one example, in my book, I wanted to find the slaves that were in Shelter Island.
Okay.
Actually, not Shelter Island. Oh gosh, I'm
I
trying to
know
think.
there's a slave cemetery, or slaves are buried right outside of the town of the little town
Orient. It's
Orient.
Orient. Yes, I
Orient,
just
right?
remembered. Well, I had to go because I'm into history, I had to go see this. So I invited a couple of my friends and we went, well, I don't know, 5 or 6 years later, maybe more than that. That wasn't, they, slaves were not buried there. The family did say they were buried there, but they actually went and dug in the ground scientifically,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't true. So, see, you don't know this when you're doing the research. This is and it's written down. It's not like I
Yes,
got this from
that's
the
how I
air.
knew about it.
Yeah, that's what they knew. So that was not, I mean, funny, not funny, haha, but
Yes.
interesting that that's not necessarily true. But I had to go and see that. I'm trying to think of the family because I can't think of the family name right this minute. And it's in my book, of course. But and the other funny thing is that name, there was a woman on the I went to Glen Cove High School. The name of that family, she was a trustee in Glen Cove. And I'm thinking, wow. But that was one of the first names of the people who settled in Southold. And it was just a very, I put it all together because of the history.
Where
But
did they come from?
England, they ended up in Connecticut first under the Reverend Youngs. And then they came, I believe that's another, you talk about chuckling. There were so many people who came, different Protestant groups who came, and they said, it's like, there's too many of us. So the Reverend John Youngs came across the sound to Southold.
Uh-huh. But there was a lot of traffic between Connecticut and the North Shore
Yes,
in those days.
yes,
I mean, the Culper Spy Ring.
yes, but that's a lot later.
Yes,
I
well,
love that. I have read that more than once about
yeah,
the spy
yeah.
ring. It's fascinating.
And successful. And it was
Yes,
George Washington actually creating the first uh, CIA.
right.
The
They were
country. I mean, that's where
undercover.
the CIA came from, because that came from the OSS, and that came from something before it. And
Right.
again, the two of us between our memories, but it was the national, or it was the American. I don't remember the name of it, but George Washington actually created the first espionage group in America.
Yes.
It was great. And you
Yes.
can actually visit Brewster's Tavern, right? In Setauket.
Yes.
So that's a great story too. So um, have you considered doing another book like this? No.
I'm writing short stories because the Captain Henry Green book that I self-published, that was the only one of the three that I self-published. It took me 3 years to write and complete. So I decided that I'm writing short stories, and some of my most recent ones are a lot more contemporary. But I do enjoy doing the research for all my, all three books required a lot of research,
Sure.
which I like to do. I know some people don't, but I enjoy
Oh,
that.
that's my favorite part of writing a book,
Yes.
the research, is you find out things and it changes the story a little bit
Yes.
here and there. Yeah,
Yes.
so I like doing that as well. So what are the topics that you're writing on now for short stories?
Well,
Just give
the
me one.
latest the latest is a trilogy. I've written three short stories about this woman who surprisingly lives in a place like Southold. It's not
Aha.
called. Yes. And I also love to read mysteries. So these three stories involve a mystery. And the first one doesn't involve any blood,
Uh,
but it's a mystery of somebody stealing in the local community. And I don't want to say too much about how the articles are recovered. And in the end, I'm pretty sure you don't really know who is the culprit. That's designed that way. And then the next two stories have to do with a murder in the same community, which is like Southold, but again, it's not Southold. It's based on, so it's a lot more contemporary than my usual writings,
all
which,
right, so you're
yeah.
delving into the world of mystery now, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, mysteries are fun to write, I find. What do you find the most challenging thing about writing a mystery?
Um, because I read a lot of mysteries and I watch a lot of mysteries,
Uh-huh.
because I don't watch sitcoms or anything like that. I find that a good writer needs to sort of dovetail a lot of intrigue that's going on in the story. You don't
Mhm.
want it to be too straightforward.
That's right.
That's what I've learned. So you want a lot of I'm trying to think of the word.
Red herrings.
That's it. That's it.
Red
You want a lot
herrings.
of that. And oh, okay.
I find that the most challenging thing about writing a mystery, and what I do is I use a flow chart on a great big post-it. And in each chapter, I show where I introduce the clue, how it proceeds through the story, because everything has to tie up at the end. And also, you have to give the reader enough information that they can figure it out themselves, but do it in a way that they can't.
Yeah, I like your explanation.
Yeah, so that's basically what I've done in my books. So we have about a minute left. Do you have any advice for budding writers of history or mystery?
Yeah, basically, if you really want to be a writer, you have to keep at it. I guess that to me is something I learned because I had no idea when I started how to proceed and the fact that it's how difficult it is to get published.
Hmm.
But it's well worth the time and effort. That's what I've come back out with.
I think as art forms go, writing is probably the most difficult because all you're dealing with is ideas in your head. You don't have clay, you don't have paint, you don't have wood. You have
Yes.
ideas in your head, right? And
Right.
that's what you have to uh, turn into something that will appeal to people and they'll think it's great art. So thank you so
Good
much,
point.
Rosemary. It's really been a pleasure to have you on. And I wish you the best of luck. And we'll have to meet again and maybe we can write a mystery together.
That sounds like a good idea, but thank you for having me.
You're welcome.